The smartest person you know has already been manipulated today, and they have no idea. Hey everyone, welcome back to the channel. Today, we're diving deep into something that's going to challenge everything you thought you knew about manipulation, intelligence, and why good people fall for bad ideas. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Manipulation doesn't target stupid people. It targets smart ones. And if you think you're too intelligent to be manipulated, you've already fallen into the first trap. I'm going to spend the next hour walking you through the psychology, the neuroscience, and the real-world examples that prove this counterintuitive reality. By the end of this video, you'll understand why your intelligence might actually make you more vulnerable, not less. And more importantly, you'll learn how to protect yourself. So grab your coffee, settle in, and let's talk about why manipulation is everyone's problem. Let's start with a story that changed how psychologists think about manipulation forever. In the 1970s, a researcher named Philip Zimbardo conducted his famous Stanford prison experiment. Cool. But here's what most people don't know. He specifically recruited intelligent, educated college students. These weren't random people off the street. These were bright, promising young men from one of America's top universities. Within days, these intelligent students had transformed into either abusive guards or broken prisoners. Their intelligence didn't protect them. In some ways, it made things worse because they rationalized their behavior with sophisticated justifications. This pattern repeats throughout history. When we look at who joins cults, who falls for scams, who gets caught in abusive relationships, or who spreads misinformation, intelligence isn't the protective factor we think it is. In fact, studies show that higher education and intelligence can sometimes correlate with greater susceptibility to certain types of manipulation. Why? Because smart people are better at convincing themselves. They're better at constructing elaborate justifications for beliefs they've already adopted emotionally. Let me give you a concrete example. Research from Yale psychologist Dan Kahan found that people with higher numeracy skills and scientific literacy were actually more polarized on politically charged scientific issues. The smarter they were, the better they became at selectively interpreting data to fit their pre-existing beliefs. This is called motivated reasoning, and intelligence doesn't protect against it. It weaponizes it. Think about it. If you're intelligent, you have more tools to defend a position once you've committed to it. You can find more sophisticated arguments, poke more holes in opposing views, and create more elaborate mental frameworks to support what you already believe. Your intelligence becomes the defense attorney for your emotions, not the judge seeking truth. Now let's talk about what manipulation actually is, because most people have it completely wrong. Manipulation isn't about tricking stupid people with obvious lies. That's not manipulation. That's just lying to people who aren't paying attention. Real manipulation is far more sophisticated, and it works on anyone, regardless of intelligence. Manipulation targets your psychology, not your IQ. Here's the framework. Effective manipulation exploits universal human vulnerabilities. These are features, not bugs, of how our brains work. Every single human has these vulnerabilities because they're part of our evolutionary wiring. Let me break down the big ones. The need for consistency. Once we've made a decision or taken a position, our brains desperately want to remain consistent with that choice. This is called commitment and consistency bias. Manipulators know this. They get you to make small commitments first, then gradually escalate. You keep going, not because you're stupid, but because your brain hates the cognitive dissonance of admitting you were wrong initially. Smart people are often more vulnerable here because they've built an identity around being logical and consistent. Admitting error feels like identity destruction, social proof, and belonging. We're tribal creatures. We look to others to determine what's true, what's acceptable, what's normal. Manipulators create false consensus, surround you with people who already believe what they want you to believe, and isolate you from dissenting voices. Intelligence doesn't override this need for belonging. In fact, intelligent people often seek out other intelligent people who think like them, creating echo chambers of sophisticated reasoning around potentially false premises. Authority and expertise. We're wired to defer to experts and authority figures. This makes evolutionary sense. You don't want to reinvent the wheel when someone who knows better can guide you. But manipulators exploit this by positioning themselves as authorities, using credentials, confidence, and complex language to appear expert. Smart people are particularly vulnerable to this because they respect expertise and intellectual authority. If someone presents ideas with academic language, citations, and sophisticated frameworks, intelligent people are more likely to engage seriously rather than dismiss it outright. Reciprocity and investment. When someone gives us something, we feel obligated to give back. Manipulators invest in you. Time, attention, gifts, information, creating a psychological debt. The more you've invested in a relationship, belief system, or organization, the harder it becomes to walk away. Your intelligence makes you more vulnerable here because you can calculate all you've invested and rationalize why leaving would be wasteful or emotional rather than logical. The illusion of control. We like to believe we're in control of our decisions. Manipulators give you the illusion of choice while constraining the options. They let you feel like you're making intelligent, independent decisions when really, they've designed the decision architecture. Smart people are especially vulnerable because they trust their decision-making process. I chose this rationally, you think, not realizing the choices themselves were curated. The key insight is this: manipulation doesn't bypass your intelligence. It uses your intelligence against you. So, if intelligence doesn't protect you, what makes someone vulnerable to manipulation? Let me walk you through the actual risk factors, and I bet you'll recognize yourself in at least one of these categories. The high achievers. People who are successful, accomplished, and intelligent often believe they've earned their success purely through merit and smart decision-making. This creates a blind spot. You think, I'm successful because I'm good at evaluating situations, so my evaluation must be correct. Manipulators love high achievers because they're already trained to commit fully, work hard, and persist through challenges. Tell a high achiever that something requires dedication and intelligence to understand, and they'll work twice as hard to prove they can do it. The empathetic and compassionate. People with high emotional intelligence and empathy are incredibly vulnerable to manipulation, especially emotional manipulation. If you're someone who naturally tries to understand others' perspectives, wants to help, and feels others' pain, you're a prime target. Why? Because manipulators exploit your compassion. They tell you stories of victimhood, pain, and struggle. They make you feel like you're the only one who understands. Your empathy becomes the hook, and intelligent, empathetic people can construct elaborate justifications, for why they need to keep helping, keep believing, keep investing. The skeptics and critical thinkers. This one surprises people, but skeptics can be incredibly easy to manipulate. Why? Because sophisticated manipulation presents itself as the real truth that others are too naive or brainwashed to see. If you pride yourself on thinking critically and not following the crowd, a manipulator just needs to position their message as the contrarian truth. They make you feel smart for seeing through mainstream lies. Your skepticism, which should protect you, becomes the tool of your manipulation. You're not following the crowd. You're following a different crowd while believing you're independent. People going through transitions. When you're in transition, new job, new city, breakup, loss, identity crisis, you're vulnerable. Not because you're stupid, but because your normal defense mechanisms are overwhelmed. You're seeking meaning, connection, and stability. Intelligence doesn't help here because the vulnerability is emotional and circumstantial, not intellectual. In fact, intelligent people might be more vulnerable during transitions because they're not used to feeling lost and will grasp onto anything that provides clarity and certainty. The pattern seekers. If you love finding patterns, connecting dots, and figuring out how things work, you're vulnerable to conspiracy thinking and manipulative narratives that present complex, interconnected explanations for confusing events. Intelligent people are often excellent pattern seekers, but our brains are so good at finding patterns that we find them even when they don't exist. Manipulators provide you with patterns that feel satisfying to discover, that make you feel smart for seeing connections others miss. Your intelligence reinforces the false pattern rather than questioning it. The common thread. None of these vulnerabilities have anything to do with being stupid. They're about being human. Let's make this concrete with some real-world examples across different domains. Cult recruitment. Modern cults don't target the unintelligent. They target educated professionals going through transitions. Take NA5EM, the sex trafficking cult disguised as a self-improvement organization. They recruited doctors, lawyers, actors, and executives. Why did smart people join? Because NA5EM presented itself as an intensive executive success program. It used sophisticated language, presented complex philosophical frameworks, and positioned itself as for people intelligent enough to handle advanced personal development. The manipulation started small. Attend a workshop. Then, take a more intensive course. Then, recruit others. Because teaching solidifies learning, right? Then, move closer to the community. Because serious growth requires serious commitment. Each step was rationalized with intelligent-sounding justifications. By the time members were branded and exploited, they'd invested so much financially, socially, emotionally, that their intelligence became a trap. They'd built elaborate mental frameworks justifying everything. Leaving would mean admitting they'd been fooled, which would devastate their identity as smart, competent people. Financial scams. Bernie Madoff didn't target struggling retirees scraping by. He targeted sophisticated investors, financial professionals, and wealthy institutions. These were people who understood finance, who did due diligence, who were smart about money. How did he fool them? Social proof and exclusivity. Madoff's fund was invite only. Getting in meant you were part of an elite club. Smart investors saw other smart investors profiting and thought, these people aren't fools, so this must be legitimate. Their intelligence backfired. They did due diligence, but their due diligence consisted of checking what other smart people thought. Everyone assumed someone else had verified the details. No one wanted to ask basic questions and seem unsophisticated. Misinformation and belief systems. Here's a contemporary example: the spread of sophisticated misinformation online. Studies show that people with higher education and media literacy can be more vulnerable to certain types of misinformation, especially when it confirms their political beliefs. Why? Because intelligent people are better at motivated reasoning. When they encounter misinformation that aligns with their worldview, they don't see it as misinformation. They see it as a credible alternative perspective. They can cite sources, construct arguments, and defend their beliefs with impressive sophistication. Meanwhile, the misinformation that contradicts their worldview is instantly recognized as false. Their intelligence is applied selectively, not universally. Abusive relationships. Domestic abuse doesn't only happen to people with low self-esteem or lack of education. Plenty of successful, intelligent, confident people end up in abusive relationships. Why? Because abusers are sophisticated manipulators who start with love bombing, gradually introduce control, isolate their partners incrementally, and gaslight effectively. By the time the abuse is clear, the victim has rationalized so many smaller incidents that their reality is fundamentally distorted. Intelligent victims often stay longer because they think they can fix it, understand it, or outsmart it. They think, I'm smart enough to handle this, or I can see the good in them that others can't. Their intelligence becomes a rationalization machine for staying. Workplace manipulation. Toxic work environments thrive by manipulating intelligent, dedicated employees. They use mission-driven language, talk about being family, create artificial urgency, and reward overwork while punishing boundaries. Smart employees are particularly vulnerable because they want to believe their work matters. They can handle intense demands that others can't. And they're being compensated fairly with experience and opportunity, even when they're being exploited. Intelligence doesn't protect against this because the manipulation targets your values, impact, growth, achievement, not your logic. The pattern across all these examples? Manipulation works best on people who trust their own judgment and who have something to prove, either to themselves or others. Sound like intelligent people to you? Let's go deeper into why our brains make us vulnerable, regardless of intelligence. Your brain isn't designed to find truth. It's designed to keep you alive, socially connected, and confident in your decisions. These goals often conflict with objective truth-seeking. The backfire effect. When people encounter information that contradicts their beliefs, the parts of their brain associated with identity and threat detection light up. Your brain perceives challenges to your beliefs as threats to your survival, because throughout human evolution, being cast out of your tribe was a death sentence. Intelligence doesn't change this basic wiring. In fact, more intelligent people often experience stronger backfire effects because they're more practiced at defending their beliefs and have more cognitive tools to do so. Confirmation bias. At the neural level, your brain is constantly filtering billions of pieces of information, deciding what to pay attention to and what to ignore. It uses your existing beliefs as the filter. You literally see what confirms your beliefs more clearly than what contradicts them. This happens at a preconscious level. Before you've even consciously processed information, your brain has already filtered it through your belief system. Intelligence operates downstream from this filtering, meaning you're using your intelligence on already biased information. The rationalization engine. There's a fascinating theory in psychology called the elephant and the rider. Your emotions and intuitions are the elephant, powerful, instinctive, directing where you go. Your conscious reasoning is the rider, along for the trip, believing it's in control. When the elephant decides something, the rider's job isn't to question it. The rider's job is to come up with reasons why the elephant's decision was correct. This is called post hoc rationalization. The smarter you are, the better rider you have, which means the better you are at coming up with convincing reasons for wherever your elephant decided to go. Your intelligence doesn't make you more objective. It makes you better at justifying whatever you already believe emotionally. The identity-belief fusion. Over time, beliefs become fused with identity. You're not just someone who believes in free markets or social justice or a particular religion. You are a free market person, a social justice advocate, a devout believer. When beliefs become identity, challenging the belief feels like attacking the person. Your brain responds to intellectual disagreement as if it's physical danger. And intelligence doesn't override this. It just gives you more sophisticated ways to defend your identity. Cognitive dissonance. When you hold contradictory beliefs or when your actions contradict your beliefs, your brain experiences discomfort called cognitive dissonance. Your brain will do almost anything to resolve this discomfort. The easiest solution? Change your beliefs to match your actions, or find ways to deny the contradiction. This is why people who've invested heavily in something, a belief, a relationship, a purchase, will defend it fiercely. Admitting error means experiencing massive cognitive dissonance. Intelligence amplifies this because intelligent people can construct incredibly sophisticated rationalizations to eliminate cognitive dissonance without changing course. The bottom line, your brain is running software designed for tribal survival in prehistoric environments, and that software has bugs when it comes to finding truth in modern information ecosystems. Intelligence is just more processing power running the same buggy software. All right, so we've established that intelligence doesn't protect you, and we're all vulnerable. That's pretty depressing. But here's the good news. Understanding these vulnerabilities is the first step to defending against them. Let me give you practical strategies that actually work. Strategy 1. Embrace intellectual humility. The single best defense against manipulation is accepting that you can be wrong, that you don't know everything, and that you've probably been wrong about important things before. This doesn't mean being uncertain about everything. It means holding your beliefs with appropriate confidence based on evidence while remaining open to revision. Try this exercise. Once a week, identify one belief you hold and genuinely steelman the opposing position. Not a straw man version, the absolute strongest version of the opposite view. Force yourself to articulate why intelligent, good faith people might disagree with you. Strategy 2. Diversify your information diet. If everyone you follow, every source you read, and every person you talk to basically agrees with you, you're in an echo chamber. And echo chambers are manipulation factories. Actively seek out people who disagree with you, not to argue with them, but to understand their perspective. Subscribe to at least 1 or 2 sources that challenge your worldview. Join communities where your beliefs are minority positions. This is uncomfortable. That discomfort is the feeling of your brain actually having to process new information, rather than just confirming what it already believes. Strategy 3. Watch for isolation tactics. Manipulators isolate you from outside perspectives. They create us versus them dynamics. They tell you that anyone who disagrees just doesn't understand, isn't smart enough, or is part of the problem. If you find yourself in a community or relationship where questioning is discouraged, where leaving is portrayed as betrayal, where outside relationships are discouraged, or where you're told you're special for understanding things others can't, run. Legitimate communities encourage you to maintain outside relationships. Welcome good faith questions and don't punish doubt. Strategy 4. Implement decision cooling periods. When you're being asked to make a significant decision, financial, relational, ideological, insist on a cooling period. Say you need 48 hours or a week to think about it. Manipulators create artificial urgency because they know that given time and space, you'll think more clearly. They'll tell you this opportunity won't last, that you need to decide now, that hesitation means you're not serious. That's exactly when you should slow down. If it's genuinely good, it'll still be good in a week. If it won't be good in a week, it's probably not actually good now. Strategy 5. Cultivate outside validators. Identify people in your life who you trust to be honest with you, even when it's uncomfortable. These should be people who aren't invested in your decisions, who don't benefit from them, and who have demonstrated good judgment. When you're making significant decisions or considering major beliefs, run them by these people. Not to get their permission, but to get an outside perspective that isn't caught in your emotional context. If you find yourself hiding decisions or beliefs from these trusted people, that's a red flag. Strategy 6. Question your emotional investment. Before you've been manipulated, it's easy to say you'd change your mind given new evidence. After you're invested, it becomes nearly impossible. Regularly ask yourself, how much have I invested in this belief, relationship, or decision? Am I defending this because the evidence supports it, or because I've invested too much to back out? If you can identify the point where you became committed, you can better evaluate whether subsequent rationalizations are genuine or defensive. Strategy 7. Learn to recognize thought-terminating cliches. Manipulative systems use thought-terminating cliches, phrases designed to shut down critical thinking. Things like, "it is what it is," "everything happens for a reason," "you just need to have faith," "trust the process," or "if you have to ask, you'll never understand." These phrases feel profound, but communicate nothing. They're designed to make you stop questioning. When you encounter them, especially repeatedly, that's a sign you're in a manipulative environment. Strategy 8. Track your predictions. One way to combat motivated reasoning is to make predictions and track whether they come true. If your belief system is accurate, it should generate accurate predictions about the world. Write down specific predictions with timelines. Check back. Were you right? If you're consistently wrong, your model of reality needs updating. If you're rationalizing why you were technically right, even though things didn't happen as predicted, you're engaged in motivated reasoning. Strategy 9. Cultivate discomfort tolerance. Much manipulation works because changing your mind is uncomfortable. It requires admitting error, updating your identity, and potentially losing community. Practice being wrong about small things. Publicly change your mind. Get comfortable with the feeling of uncertainty. The more you practice this muscle, the easier it becomes to course correct when you've been manipulated. Strategy 10. Remember, leaving is always an option. No matter how much you've invested, no matter how smart you think the decision was initially, no matter how embarrassing it would be to admit error, leaving is always an option. The sunk cost fallacy is powerful, but past investment is not a reason to continue bad investment. Your past self made the best decision they could with the information they had. Your current self can make a different decision with better information. Give yourself permission to change your mind. Your worth isn't determined by never being wrong. It's determined by what you do after you realize you've been wrong. So here's where we land. Manipulation doesn't target the stupid. It targets the human. And intelligence, rather than being a shield, can actually be weaponized against you if you're not careful. The people most confident they can't be manipulated are often the most vulnerable. The people who think they're too smart, too educated, too aware. They're the ones manipulators dream about. But here's the empowering part. Understanding this doesn't make you paranoid. It makes you free. When you accept that you're vulnerable, that your brain has bugs, and that your intelligence can work against you, you can actually implement strategies to protect yourself. You can seek out diverse perspectives. You can question your emotional investments. You can maintain outside relationships. You can give yourself permission to be wrong and to change your mind. The goal isn't to be unmanipulable. That's impossible. The goal is to be aware, to be humble, and to be willing to course correct when you realize you've been led astray. We're all in this together, trying to navigate a world full of people and systems trying to shape our beliefs and behaviors. The first step to protecting yourself is admitting you need protection. And that's not weakness, that's wisdom. Thank you so much for watching. If this video made you think differently about manipulation and intelligence, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into psychology and human behavior. And here's my challenge to you. This week, identify one belief you hold strongly and genuinely. Try to steelman the opposite position. See what you learn. Leave a comment letting me know what you discovered. Until next time, stay curious, stay humble, and stay skeptical, especially of your own certainty.